In a distant galaxy, far from the familiar realms of humanity, a small ship spiraled out of control, crashing onto the desolate plains of a once thriving planet named Terra Nova. Amidst the wreckage, a young alien girl named Lyra emerged. With shimmering blue skin and large, expressive eyes, she was unlike any creature the inhabitants of Terra Nova had ever seen. As she crawled from the debris, disoriented and frightened, she scanned her surroundings. The inhabitants of Terra Nova, a species that had evolved to thrive on a carnivorous diet, were known for their ruggedness and resilience. They had built a society that was both advanced and merciless. Upon seeing Lyra, a mix of curiosity and apprehension spread through the crowd that had gathered. Most of the townsfolk turned away, murmuring among themselves about the danger of this unknown being. The stories of extraterrestrial visitors had always been laced with fear, and Lyra's delicate frame and wide eyes only intensified that fear. "She's not one of us," they whispered. "She's a threat." But not everyone felt this way. In the shadows, a figure stepped forward. Garrick, a rugged man known for his wild mane of hair and the ferocity with which he hunted. Unlike the others, he was drawn to Lyra's vulnerability. He saw something in her, an innocence that resonated with his own lost childhood. Garrick knelt beside her, his heart pounding as he reached out a hand. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice a low rumble. Lyra looked up, her eyes glistening with tears and fear. She shook her head but could not muster the words to respond. As he helped her to her feet, the townsfolk watched with a mix of disbelief and disgust. "What are you doing?" one of the older women shouted. "She's an alien. She could be dangerous." But Garrick felt a pull in his heart that he couldn't ignore. "She's just a girl." "Look at her," he exclaimed, gesturing towards Lyra. "She needs our help." The townsfolk remained unmoved. They had long been conditioned to see strength and ferocity as virtues, while compassion was deemed a weakness. They regarded Garrick's display of kindness as folly. With a collective turn of their backs, they abandoned Lyra to her fate. Days passed, and Lyra, although still frail and frightened, slowly began to find her footing in this strange new world. Garrick became her protector. He taught her the ways of the planet, sharing the skills necessary to survive. They foraged together, gathering fruits and nuts, and Garrick introduced her to the animals of the forest, showing her how to interact with the creatures that roamed the wild. In return, Lyra shared stories of her home, a place of harmony and peace, where her people lived in balance with nature. Garrick listened, captivated by her tales, and for the first time in years, he felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. They began to form an unlikely bond, transcending the barriers of their vastly different worlds. However, the townsfolk continued to watch from afar, plotting. They were skeptical of Garrick's newfound friendship. To them, kindness towards an alien was not only foolish, it was dangerous. They began to whisper among themselves, concocting stories about how the alien girl was a harbinger of doom. They spoke of how she would turn Garrick against his own kind, using her otherworldly powers to manipulate him. One night, as Lyra and Garrick sat under the starlit sky, sharing laughter and stories, a group of townsfolk approached. Led by the town's chief, a grizzled veteran named Kale, they demanded that Garrick hand Lyra over to them. "She is a threat to our way of life," Kale declared, his voice echoing through the darkness. Garrick stood his ground, the warmth of Lyra's presence giving him courage. "She is not a threat. She's just a girl who needs our help," he replied firmly. "I won't let you harm her." Kale's eyes narrowed. "You're blinded by your compassion, Garrick. The rest of us see the danger she represents. She must be eliminated before it's too late." As tensions escalated, Lyra felt a wave of fear wash over her. She could sense the hostility radiating from the townsfolk, their hatred palpable. But amidst the fear, she also felt something else, an ancient power stirring within her. Her people had long possessed abilities that allowed them to connect with the universe in ways others could not fathom. In that moment of desperation, she reached out with her mind, tapping into the energy of the planet. The air shimmered around her as she unleashed a wave of calming energy that enveloped Garrick and the townsfolk. They paused, the anger in their eyes softening as confusion washed over them. "What is happening?" Kale whispered, his voice trembling. Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady and resonant. "I mean no harm. I am here to learn and to share. My home is a place of peace, and I wish to bring that peace to your world." For the first time, the townsfolk saw her not as a threat, but as a being of light. They began to lower their weapons, uncertainty replaced by curiosity. Garrick looked at Lyra, pride swelling in his chest. "See? They can understand if you show them." From that day forward, the town began to change. With Lyra's presence, the once carnivorous humans learned the value of compassion and community. They discovered that strength came not just from hunting and survival, but from understanding and acceptance. Lyra became a bridge between two worlds, teaching the inhabitants of Terra Nova that vulnerability was not a weakness, but a path to greater strength. And in return, they taught her the tenacity of life on their harsh planet. As seasons changed and years passed, the bond between Lyra and Garrick deepened, transcending the boundaries of their origins. Together, they forged a new legacy, one where the so-called carnivorous humans embraced their capacity for kindness, proving that even the most hardened hearts could learn to love. In a universe vast and full of wonders, they discovered that true strength lies not in what one consumes, but in what one shares. And as the stars twinkled above, they knew they had created something beautiful, a new home woven from threads of compassion, hope, and love.